The transport shuttle docked with Harmony 7 station with a soft hiss. Inside the passenger bay, 3 human soldiers checked their gear one final time. Sergeant Danny Hayes adjusted his uniform collar and grinned at his companions. "Ready to make some new friends?" he asked. Corporal Lisa Morgan rolled her eyes but smiled. "Just don't scare them too badly on the first day, Danny." Private Kevin Torres laughed quietly. "I don't think we'll be the scary ones here. Did you see the size of those Vrexian warriors in the briefing videos?" The airlock opened, and the 3 humans stepped into the station. The gravity felt lighter than Earth normal, making each step feel slightly bouncy. They walked down the corridor toward the main training facility, their boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. Here, a group of alien soldiers waited in the reception area. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with dark green scales covering their bodies and golden eyes that tracked every movement. These were the Vrexian warriors, known throughout the galaxy as the finest soldiers in the Coalition. At the front of the group stood Commander Zethrak. His scales were darker than the others, marked with scars from countless battles. He looked at the 3 humans with an expression that seemed almost amused. "Welcome to Harmony 7, Zethrak said in perfectly accented English. "I am Commander Zethrak. These are my warriors. We will be your training partners for the next 3 months." Danny stepped forward and extended his hand. "Sergeant Danny Hayes, sir. This is Corporal Lisa Morgan and Private Kevin Torres. See, we're honored to be here." Zethrak looked at the offered hand for a moment before grasping it carefully. His grip was strong but controlled. "I have read much about humans. Your species is new to the Coalition. We are curious to see how Deathworlders perform in proper military training." Lisa noticed the slight emphasis on the word proper, but said nothing. Kevin kept his face neutral. "Your quarters are in Section 7, Zethrak continued. "We have adjusted the gravity there to match your homeworld. 80% of standard would be dangerous for you, I understand." "We appreciate that, sir," Danny said, "though we can adapt to lower gravity if needed." One of the Vrexian warriors, a female with bright copper-colored eyes, spoke up. "Is it true that your planet has predators that hunt humans?" "Yes, ma'am," Kevin answered. "Bears are mountain lions, sharks, crocodiles, and others. Though humans are pretty good at defending themselves." The Vrexians exchanged glances. Another warrior asked, "And your weather truly includes frozen water falling from the sky?" "Snow, yes, sir," Lisa confirmed. "Also rain, hail, lightning storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, and occasionally all of them at once." Zethrak made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Your species has a talent for exaggeration. This will make the training more entertaining." He turned to his warriors. "Show our guests to their quarters. Training begins at dawn cycle tomorrow." The humans were led through the station by a young Vrexian warrior named Krivas. He seemed friendlier than the others, asking questions about Earth as they walked. "What is your basic training like?" Krivas asked. "Yeah, how long does it last?" "Depends on the branch," Danny explained. "Mine was about 3 months. Lots of physical conditioning, weapons training, combat drills, survival skills." 3 months? Krivas seemed surprised. "Ours lasts 2 years," Lisa nodded politely. "I'm sure the Coalition trains very thoroughly." Their quarters were comfortable but simple. 3 sleeping areas, a common room, and a bathroom. The gravity felt right, pulling at them with familiar Earth weight. "Rest well," Krivas said. "Tomorrow will be challenging. Commander Zethrak has prepared a special course to test your limits." After he left, the 3 humans unpacked their gear in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Kevin started laughing. "Did you hear that? They think 3 months is a short training period." "They seemed pretty confident," Lisa said. "Yeah, the commander definitely thinks we're going to struggle." Danny sat on his bunk and started lacing up his running shoes. "Well, we'll find out tomorrow. I'm going to do a quick 5-mile run to shake off the travel stiffness. Anyone want to join?" "I'll come," Lisa said. "Kevin?" "Sure, we should probably stretch out anyway." They changed into their workout clothes and headed to the station's main corridor. The lighting had dimmed to simulate night cycle, and few people were around. The humans jogged at an easy pace, their breathing steady and relaxed. They passed a group of Vrexian warriors who stared at them in confusion. One called out, "Why are you running? Training begins tomorrow." "Just staying loose," Danny called back without slowing down. After 5 miles, they returned to their quarters. Elisa did some stretches while Kevin did push-ups. Danny checked the training schedule that had been sent to their datapads. "Tomorrow starts with a 5-kilometer run," he read. "Then obstacle course, then hand-to-hand combat drills." "Sounds like a light day," Kevin said between push-ups. "They probably want to ease us in," Lisa agreed. "See what we can handle before the real training starts." Danny looked at the schedule again and smiled. Or they think this is the real training. Either way, should be interesting. The next morning, they woke before dawn cycle. Old habits from Earth military life stayed strong. They dressed in their physical training uniforms and headed to the assembly area. The Vrexian warriors were already there, looking fresh and ready. Commander Zethrak stood at the front, his golden eyes gleaming in the artificial light. "Good morning, warriors," he announced. "Today, we begin with endurance testing. A 5-kilometer run in standard gravity. The course record is 23 minutes. We shall see how our human guests perform." The Vrexians looked at the humans with expressions that might have been sympathy. They clearly expected the Deathworlders to struggle with the reduced gravity and the distance. Danny, Lisa, and Kevin took their positions at the starting line. They looked at each other and shared a small smile. The starting signal sounded, and the run began. The Vrexian warriors surged forward at the starting signal, their powerful legs carrying them in long strides. They moved with the grace of trained soldiers, breathing in steady rhythm. Commander Zethrak watched from the sidelines, tracking each runner's progress on his datapad. The 3 humans settled into an easy jog. Their pace looked almost casual compared to the Vrexians' intense sprint. Danny kept his breathing relaxed, barely working at all. Lisa ran beside him with perfect form, her steps light despite the lower gravity. Kevin brought up the rear, looking around at the station's interior as if on a sightseeing tour. By the 2-kilometer mark, some of the Vrexian warriors had slowed slightly. Their breathing grew heavier. They glanced back at the humans, expecting to see them far behind and struggling. Instead, the humans were right there, running with the same easy pace as before. They weren't even sweating yet. At 3 kilometers, the gap began to change. The humans started passing Vrexian warriors one by one. Danny gave a friendly nod to each soldier as he jogged past. Lisa called out encouragement in her limited Vrexian vocabulary. Kevin waved cheerfully. Commander Zethrak's eyes widened as he watched his datapad. The humans' heart rates were barely elevated. Their breathing remained steady. They ran as if they had just started, not as if they were past the halfway point. At 4 kilometers, Danny looked over at Lisa. "Want to pick it up a bit? I'm getting cold." "Sure," Lisa agreed. "This is a nice warm-up." The 2 humans accelerated smoothly, their pace increasing without any visible effort. Kevin stayed at his original speed, still looking around with interest. The Vrexian warriors watched in disbelief as 2 humans pulled ahead of their entire group. The finish line appeared ahead. Danny and Lisa crossed it together, barely breathing hard. Their time was 14 minutes and 38 seconds. Kevin finished 2 minutes later, having stopped twice to admire the station's architecture through the viewing windows. He still beat half the Vrexian warriors. Zethrak approached the humans as they did cool-down stretches. "That was acceptable," he said carefully, "for a warm-up exercise." "Oh, good," Lisa said brightly. "When does the actual run start?" The commander's scaled face showed confusion. "That was the run. 5 kilometers. You have completed it." Danny looked genuinely surprised. "Sir, that's it. We usually run at least 10 kilometers for morning physical training, sometimes 20. In higher gravity," Kevin added helpfully. Zethrak made a note on his datapad. His expression had shifted from amused confidence to careful observation. "I see. The obstacle course is next. Follow me." The obstacle course stretched across a large training bay. It included climbing walls, rope obstacles, balance beams, barbed wire crawls, and water hazards. The Vrexian warriors gathered around it, preparing their gear. "This course tests strength, agility, and endurance," Zethrak explained. The record time is 41 minutes. Most warriors complete it in about 50 minutes. Take your time and be careful. Injuries are common. The Vrexians went first, moving through the course with practiced skill. They were clearly experienced warriors, handling each obstacle with competence. Their times ranged from 45 to 60 minutes. Then it was the humans' turn. Lisa went first. She approached the climbing wall and scaled it in seconds, her fingers finding holds that the Vrexians had struggled to reach. At the top, she swung over the rope obstacle like it was playground equipment. The barbed wire section required crawling through mud under sharp metal strands. Lisa dropped and slithered through, her movement smooth and controlled. She emerged on the other side covered in mud but smiling. The water hazard was a pool filled with cold liquid that had to be crossed while carrying weighted packs. Lisa dove in without hesitation, swam across with strong strokes, and climbed out on the far side. She crossed the finish line in 11 minutes and 12 seconds. The Vrexian warriors stood in stunned silence. Zethrak checked his timing equipment, certain there must be an error. There was no error. Danny went next. He moved through the course with efficient precision, treating each obstacle as a minor inconvenience. His time was 10 minutes and 53 seconds. Kevin took his turn, moving with the same casual competence as his companions. He actually paused at one point to help a Vrexian warrior who had gotten tangled in the rope section. Even with the delay, his time was 12 minutes and 6 seconds. The Vrexian medic, a slender alien with 6 arms, approached Danny after the course. "May I ask you a question?" "Of course, sir." "Do humans experience pain the same way other species do? Your nervous systems function normally?" Danny looked confused. "Yes, sir. We feel pain just fine. Why do you ask?" The medic gestured at the obstacle course. "The barbed wire section causes significant discomfort. The water temperature is near freezing. The climbing wall has rough surfaces that damage skin. Yet you and your companion showed no signs of distress." "Oh," Danny said. "Well, we train in worse conditions back home. This was actually pretty comfortable. No rain, no extreme heat or cold, no live ammunition going over our heads." The medic's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "Live ammunition?" "During advanced training, yes, sir. Helps soldiers get used to combat conditions." The medic walked away shaking his head, muttering in his own language. The afternoon session was hand-to-hand combat training. The Vrexians paired up with the humans, eager to see how the Deathworlders would perform in actual fighting. Krivas volunteered to spar with Kevin. They bowed to each other and assumed fighting stances. Zethrak gave the signal to begin. Krivas attacked with a quick strike, expecting to end the match fast. His clawed hand shot forward toward Kevin's chest. Kevin sidestepped smoothly, caught the arm, and gently redirected Krivas into a controlled throw. The Vrexian warrior landed on the mat, unhurt but surprised. "Sorry," Kevin said, offering a hand to help him up. "Should I go slower?" "No," Krivas said, accepting the help. "Full strength. I want to see what you can do." They circled each other again. This time Krivas used his full power, striking with blows that could break bones. Kevin blocked, dodged, and absorbed hits that should have dropped him. He moved with calm efficiency, never losing his balance. After 3 minutes of intense sparring, Krivas stepped back, breathing heavily. Kevin stood in front of him, barely winded, not even sweating. The Vrexian warrior looked at his own hands in confusion. I hit you at least 12 times, Krivas said. "Those were full-strength strikes. How are you still standing?" Kevin shrugged. "I've been hit harder during training exercises. You're actually pretty controlled. I appreciate that." Lisa was sparring with another Vrexian warrior nearby. Her opponent tried to use his greater size and strength to overpower her, but she moved like water, flowing around his attacks and using his own momentum against him. Within 2 minutes, she had him on the mat 3 times. Danny faced off against one of the larger Vrexian warriors, a massive soldier named Drexnor, who outweighed him by at least 70 pounds. Drexnor charged forward like a battering ram. Danny planted his feet and caught the charge, stopping the Vrexian's momentum completely. The impact made a loud sound that echoed through the training hall. Drexnor pushed with all his strength, his feet scraping against the floor. Danny held firm, his muscles tensed, but his face calm. After 10 seconds of struggle, he smoothly redirected Drexnor to the side and let him stumble past. Commander Zethrak watched all three matches with growing concern. That evening, after the humans had returned to their quarters, he called a meeting with his senior warriors. "What we witnessed today troubles me," Zethrak said. "Either these humans are the finest soldiers their species has to offer, or we have severely underestimated Deathworlders as a whole." "They could be elite troops," suggested one warrior. "Special forces sent to impress us." "I checked their records," Zethrak replied. "Sergeant Hayes has 6 years of service. Corporal Morgan has 4 years. Private Torres has only 2 years. They are experienced soldiers but not legendary warriors. They are, by human standards, average military personnel." The room fell silent as the Vrexians absorbed this information. "I have requested detailed files on human basic training," Zethrak continued. "I want to understand how they produce soldiers of this caliber. In the meantime, we proceed with the survival exercise as planned." The next morning, both groups gathered in the shuttle bay. They were heading to a small moon orbiting a nearby gas giant. The moon had a thin atmosphere, extreme temperature swings, and harsh terrain. It was the Coalition's ultimate test of survival skills. "You will spend 7 days on the surface," Zethrak explained. "Each team receives basic supplies, water purification tablets, NACE emergency rations, basic tools, and communication devices. The goal is to survive and return to the pickup point." He looked at the humans carefully. "The temperature drops to -30 degrees at night and rises to 45 degrees during the day. The atmosphere is breathable but thin. Most species require environmental suits. However, I am told humans can adapt to these conditions with proper gear." "We'll be fine, sir," Danny assured him. "We've trained in worse on Earth." The shuttle landed on the moon's rocky surface. The Vrexian warriors emerged in protective suits that regulated their temperature and enriched the air they breathed. The humans stepped out in standard field uniforms with light jackets. The first day was spent establishing camp. The Vrexians carefully set up their shelter using the provided equipment, or following precise coalition protocols. They worked slowly and methodically, conserving energy. The humans found a spot near some large rocks and immediately started gathering materials. Lisa identified several types of local vegetation. Kevin collected flat stones from a nearby dry riverbed. Danny began constructing a shelter using the rocks and some flexible branches from tough local plants. Krivas wandered over to watch. "You are not using the provided shelter equipment?" "We are," Danny said, pointing to the emergency blankets they had incorporated into the design. "But why use only that when there are good building materials right here? This shelter will hold heat better and protect us from wind." "How do you know which plants are safe to use?" Krivas asked. Lisa looked up from her examination of a small shrub. "Basic survival training. We learn to identify useful and dangerous plants. These ones here are similar to sagebrush from Earth. The wood is brittle, but the stems are flexible, perfect for framework." By evening, the humans had a solid shelter built into the rocks, a fire pit constructed from stones, and had mapped the immediate area. They had even found a small spring of water about half a kilometer away. The Vrexians watched from their own camp, which looked exactly like the instruction manual pictures. Efficient, but basic. That night, the temperature plummeted. The Vrexians huddled in their insulated shelters, their suits working hard to keep them warm. They could see the glow of the human campfire through their observation windows. The humans sat around their fire, roasting some tubers that Lisa had identified as edible, but they talked quietly and seemed completely comfortable. "I'm glad we found those wild onion things," Kevin said. "These tubers taste pretty bland without them." "Better than MREs," Lisa laughed, referring to the military ready-to-eat meals from Earth. "Almost anything is better than MREs," Danny agreed. On the second day, the Vrexians began their careful exploration of the area, moving in precise patterns and taking regular breaks. The humans had already covered 3 times as much ground, mapping terrain and locating resources. Lisa found several more edible plants and 2 types of small creatures that could be eaten if needed. Kevin discovered a cave system that would provide better shelter if the weather turned worse. Danny set up markers and pathways to make navigation easier. Krivas joined them on their exploration. I'm curious about their methods. In coalition survival training, we are taught to stay near the landing zone and wait for extraction. Moving around wastes energy and increases risk. That works if you're on a short mission, Danny said. But what if extraction is delayed? What if something goes wrong? We learn to make any environment work for us, not just survive in it. On the third day, the weather alert came through. A radiation storm was approaching, much stronger than predicted. All personnel were advised to prepare for emergency extraction. The Vrexian warriors immediately began packing their equipment, according to emergency protocols. Commander Zethrak contacted the orbiting ship to arrange extraction. The radiation storm would arrive in approximately 4 hours. Danny walked over to the Vrexian camp. "Sir, what's the plan?" "Emergency extraction," Zethrak replied, his voice tense. "This level of radiation is dangerous even with our suits. The exercise is terminated." "What if we can't get extracted in time?" Danny asked calmly. Zethrak looked surprised by the question. "The ship will arrive within 3 hours. We simply wait. And if something delays it, equipment failure, navigational problems, another emergency?" The commander paused. "Then we would be in serious danger. Why do you ask?" "Just thinking about backup plans, sir. Mind if we prepare an emergency shelter just in case?" Zethrak waved a hand. "Do as you wish, Sergeant, but the ship will arrive on time." The humans returned to their area and immediately started working. Kevin identified the cave system he had found earlier. Lisa gathered specific types of rocks that she said would provide radiation shielding. Danny began digging into the hillside near the cave entrance. Krivas watched them work with fascination. "You really think the ship might not come?" "Probably it will," Lisa said, stacking rocks in a precise pattern. "But we learned a long time ago that if something can go wrong, it eventually will. Better to prepare and not need it than need it and not have it." "This seems like a lot of effort for a small possibility," Krivas observed. Kevin wiped sweat from his forehead. "On Earth, we have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. It's kept humans alive through some pretty bad situations." 2 hours passed. The Vrexian warriors sat in their shelters, waiting for the extraction ship. The humans continued building their emergency shelter, layering rocks and soil in specific patterns. Then Zethrak's communicator crackled with static. "Commander, this is the ship. We have encountered a mechanical problem. Extraction will be delayed by approximately 6 hours. The storm will reach you before we can arrive. Seek maximum shelter and maintain communication." The Vrexians looked at each other with barely concealed fear. 6 hours in a radiation storm, even with their suits, would be extremely dangerous. Some might not survive. Danny jogged over to their camp. "Commander, our shelter is almost ready. It's big enough for everyone. You and your warriors should join us." Zethrak looked toward the human shelter. It was built into the hillside, reinforced with layered rocks and covered with packed soil. The entrance was a low tunnel that led into the cave system. You built that in 2 hours?" he asked. "Basic field fortification, sir. We can make it bigger if needed, but it should fit everyone if we're friendly about it." The Vrexian commander made a quick decision. "Warriors, gather emergency supplies. We move to the human shelter immediately." The storm's leading edge arrived as the last Vrexian warrior squeezed into the shelter. The sky turned a strange purple color, and the wind began to howl. Inside, the space was cramped with 14 large Vrexians and 3 humans packed together. Danny had positioned everyone carefully. The Vrexians sat in the deeper part of the cave where the rock was thickest. The humans sat near the entrance where radiation exposure would be slightly higher. "Why do you take the more dangerous positions?" asked one Vrexian warrior. We're used to it," Lisa said simply. "Besides, you're our guests." The hours passed slowly. The Vrexians, used to controlled environments and careful planning, struggled with the cramped conditions and uncertainty. Some showed signs of stress, their breathing quick and shallow. The humans remained calm. Danny started telling stories about Earth, describing mountains and oceans and weather patterns. Lisa taught them a simple card game using a deck she carried in her pack. Kevin shared ration bars and made jokes. "How can you be so relaxed? Krivas asked. We are trapped in a cave during a radiation storm. The situation is dire. We're alive, we're together, and we have shelter, Kevin replied. That's not dire. Dire is being alone in a blizzard with no gear. This is just uncomfortable. Tell us about Earth storms, another Vrexian asked. Are they truly as dangerous as the stories say? Danny smiled. Well, there are hurricanes, winds over 200 kilometers per hour, heavy rain, flooding. They can destroy entire cities. And tornadoes, Lisa added. Spinning columns of wind that can pick up vehicles and buildings. They appear with little warning. Lightning storms with millions of electrical strikes, Kevin continued. Blizzards that bury everything in frozen water. Dust storms that block out the sun. The Vrexians listened with a mixture of horror and fascination. One warrior asked, How does your species survive on such a planet? We adapt, Danny said. We build stronger structures. We develop warning systems. We learn to read the signs and prepare. And when storms come, we help each other survive them. As the storm raged outside, Lisa noticed one of the younger Vrexian warriors shaking slightly. She moved closer and offered her emergency blanket. Here, this will help. The warrior accepted it gratefully. Thank you. I have never been in a situation like this before. Our training simulations are controlled and safe. That's the difference, Lisa said gently. Earth doesn't do controlled and safe. So we learn to handle chaos and uncertainty from childhood. Commander Zethrak had been quiet for most of the time, observing the humans carefully. Finally, he spoke. Sergeant Hayes, may I ask you a question? Of course, sir. Your basic training on Earth, what does it involve? Danny thought for a moment. Physical conditioning mostly. Running, climbing, carrying heavy loads. Combat training with various weapons. Survival skills for different environments. Learning to function under stress, with little sleep, in uncomfortable conditions. For how long? Depends on the service branch. Usually 2 to 4 months of initial training, then ongoing training throughout your career. Zethrak made a note on his datapad, which he had kept protected throughout the storm. And all human soldiers receive this training? All combat soldiers, yes, sir. Some support roles have shorter training, but the basics are the same. I see. The commander looked around at his warriors, then back at the humans. I am beginning to understand something about Deathworlders. The radiation storm finally passed after 36 hours. The extraction ship arrived shortly after, and everyone returned to Harmony 7 Station safely. And the Vrexian warriors were exhausted and shaken. The humans seemed refreshed, as if they had enjoyed a camping trip. Back at the station, Commander Zethrak called the humans to his office. Sergeant Hayes, I have received the files on human military training that I requested. Before I review them, I want to ask you directly. Would you be willing to show me footage of your basic training? Of course, sir, Danny said. Though I should warn you, it might be a bit intense. I have commanded warriors for 20 years, Zethrak said confidently. I believe I can handle watching a training video. Danny connected his datapad to the office display screen. He pulled up a documentary about Marine Corps basic training that his sister had sent him months ago. This is pretty standard for Earth military training. The video began. It showed human recruits arriving at a training facility. They looked young and nervous. Then the shouting started. Drill instructors yelled directly into the faces of recruits, their voices harsh and demanding. Zethrak watched without comment as the recruits were pushed through exhausting physical exercises. Running for miles in the heat. Climbing obstacles while instructors shouted at them. Doing push-ups and sit-ups until their muscles failed. Then came the gas chamber scene. Recruits entered a room filled with tear gas, a chemical that caused intense burning in the eyes and lungs. They were required to remove their protective masks while inside. This is a standard training exercise? Zethrak asked, his voice strained. Yes, sir, Danny confirmed. It teaches soldiers to trust their equipment and to function even when they're in pain and scared. The video continued. It showed recruits crawling through mud under barbed wire while instructors fired live ammunition over their heads. Swimming in full gear. Training in rain, snow, and extreme heat. being deprived of sleep for days while completing complex tasks. One scene showed recruits learning water survival. They were thrown into a pool while wearing full equipment, required to remove the heavy gear underwater, and then swim to safety. Some clearly panicked. The instructors watched carefully but let them struggle until they figured it out. Lisa pointed at the screen. That part is really important. Learning to control panic when you think you might drown. It saves lives in real combat situations. Zethrak paused the video. He looked at the three humans sitting calmly in his office. This is your basic training? This is what every human soldier experiences? Yes, sir, Kevin said. Some branches are harder than others, but this is pretty typical. And the psychological pressure? Zethrak asked. The shouting, the stress, the deliberate discomfort? Part of the training, Danny explained. Combat is chaotic and terrifying. If soldiers fall apart under stress, they're dangerous to themselves and their units. So we train under stress from the beginning. The commander resumed the video. It showed night training exercises where recruits navigated through darkness with minimal equipment. Cold weather training where they learned to survive in snow and ice. Desert training in temperatures that exceeded 50 degrees. One segment showed a 50-mile march. Recruits carried packs weighing over 40 pounds and walked through the night and into the next day. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Medical staff checked them and, if they were physically able, sent them back to continue the march. The ones who collapse, Zethrak said quietly. They are forced to continue? Only if they're medically cleared, Lisa said. The training is hard, but we don't want permanent injuries. The point is to push people to discover they're stronger than they thought, not to break them. The video ended. Zethrak sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. I need to contact Coalition Command. Please wait here. He stepped into an adjacent room. Through the door, the humans could hear him speaking rapidly in Vrexian, his voice agitated. After 10 minutes, he returned. I have just had a very interesting conversation with my superiors, Zethrak said. I informed them that the Coalition's understanding of human military capability is fundamentally flawed. Sir, Danny asked. We assumed that humans were like other species, that your soldiers would be comparable to ours, perhaps slightly tougher due to your high-gravity homeworld. We were wrong. Zethrak pulled up a comparison chart on his screen. Our elite warriors train for 2 years to reach a level that every human soldier achieves in 3 months. He showed them data from the past week. Your running speeds, endurance levels, pain tolerance, adaptability to harsh conditions, and psychological resilience all exceed our best warriors. And you three are not exceptional by human standards. You are average. We're just regular soldiers. Sir, Kevin said modestly. Exactly, Zethrak replied. That is what concerns the Coalition Command. If your average soldiers exceed our elite warriors, what are your elite soldiers capable of? Lisa exchanged glances with Danny and Kevin. We could arrange a visit from some Special Forces personnel if you're curious, sir. Zethrak made a gesture that might have been a shudder. Perhaps later. For now, Command has made a decision. The exchange program is being restructured. He pulled up a new document. Instead of training alongside Coalition forces, humans will be invited to assist in training Coalition forces. We want to understand your methods and see if we can adapt them for other species. You want us to train your warriors? Danny asked, surprised. If you are willing. We understand it would be a significant commitment. The three humans looked at each other. Silent communication passed between them. Finally, Danny turned back to Zethrak. We'd be honored, sir. Though we should probably start easy. We don't want to hurt anyone. Start easy, Zethrak agreed. Perhaps a simple morning run to begin? 3 weeks later, a group of 30 Vrexian recruits stood at the starting line on Harmony 7's training track. They wore new physical training uniforms and looked eager to prove themselves. Danny stood in front of them, his hands clasped behind his back. Lisa and Kevin flanked him. Good morning, warriors. Today we start with a basic conditioning run. Nothing too intense. Just 10 kilometers at a comfortable pace. The Vrexians nodded confidently. 10 kilometers was long by their standards, but manageable. Begin, Danny called. The humans started jogging backward, facing the Vrexian recruits as they ran. Keep up, Lisa encouraged with a smile. This is the easy part. By kilometer 3, several Vrexians were breathing hard. By kilometer 5, they realized they had underestimated what humans considered basic. By kilometer 8, they understood why Deathworlders were called Deathworlders. Commander Zethrak watched from the observation deck. Beside him stood several Coalition officers who had come to observe the new training program. They are struggling, one officer noted. Perhaps human methods are too extreme. Perhaps, Zethrak agreed. Or perhaps we have been training our warriors to be too comfortable for too long. Look at them. They are not giving up. They are adapting. On the track below, the Vrexian recruits pushed through their exhaustion, inspired by the 3 humans who ran backward while encouraging them. It was hard. It was painful. It was exactly what they needed, and it was only the first day.